What is up, everybody? This is Brian, the Toyota guy over at Fred Anderson Toyota here in Asheville, and we are finally starting to get these 25 Camrys in. This is going to be the first time that I've actually got a chance to sit in one, and I'm kind of interested because this is going to be a LE. So in most of the marketing, we're seeing XSEs and XLEs and things like that that have more bells and whistles, but this is basically a stripped out base model LE, and I'm very curious to see what it's like, what's included, what's not, and some of my first impressions on it. So let's take a look at it together. So quick note, if you want to see more Toyota videos with some of the new cars that we have here in Asheville, make sure to subscribe to this channel. As you can see behind me, I have basically a whole bank of vehicles that if I get time, I want to spend time with. There's a Terra TRD Pro, there's a GR Corolla Circuit Edition, and I'm overdue for spending some more time with the new Tacomas, especially now that we've got a few different options here, including this really good looking underground off-road over there. So make sure to sub to this channel to let me know that you want to see those videos. And if you want to see anything specific that we might have here at Toyota, leave me a comment and let me know. Now, back to the video. All right, here we are. This is again a 2025 brand new Camry LE. As you can see, this one is in Toyota's newer color Underground. This will be the first time this color has been introduced for the Camry lineup. It's I'm pretty sure going to be the replacement for the Mag Gray that's been around for such a long time. And I have a lot of thoughts about this car. You know, there are a lot of car brands that are getting rid of their smaller vehicles, you know, stuff like Camrys, Corollas, and it really just seems to be that it's all the Japanese and Korean brands that have kind of hung on to these. So, you know, Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Kia seem to be basically it. With Chrysler getting rid of their cars, and the 300C, the Charger, all of those are gone. The Ford Fusions and the Taurus has been gone for years. And I think the reason why is because when Toyota, and you know, I think Honda makes a pretty good product as well, when they make these cars as good as they do, it kind of makes it hard for the American companies and some of the others to compete. And the Camry's been out in the previous generation since 2018 all the way up to 2024, so it was definitely time for a refresh. It was one of the Camry and the 4Runner is one of the last Toyotas to still kind of be off the older design language, the older software and technology on the car. So this certainly kind of gets the car modernized with the lineup. And I'll tell you, seeing it in person, I feel even more strongly about this. These Camrys are very much a fusion. It's got to be from the same design team that puts together the Prius as well as the Toyota Crown. I say this because if you really look at the front end here, this, I don't even know how you call it. It kind of has like a hammerhead shark look to it. This is very much a design cue that's pulled straight from the new Prius. And then as we get into the interior, you're going to see it looks very much like the Toyota Crown. Just for comparison, here is another LE Camry. You can see this one's in the celestial silver color. And I think really both of these gray or silver colors does well for this new look. I'm a pretty big fan of the way that the changes are. I like having this nice, you know, Camry font that's spread across the tailgate. That's kind of more in line with what they're doing with some of the other cars like the 4Runner, Sequoia, Tundra, instead of it just being a smaller little badge. And I really did think that when I saw these in photos, and this again is the base wheels, so no hubcaps or anything anymore, of course, but I thought that the ground clearance looked way too high on these from some of the photos, where it just kind of looked like, especially on the base model ones, that it just looked way too cheap looking. But seeing them in person, I don't know if it's just the way the pictures were taken or what, it doesn't really look all that bad. I mean, obviously, me being a car guy, I'd prefer to have like an XSE or XLE or something with a little bit more flair, and I'll be very curious to see those, as I've seen some of these sport models have like a different front end with almost like a front splitter. So stay tuned, you know, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content on those. But I'm pretty happy with the way these look. I think they've done a pretty good job. I'm guessing this is where they have integrated, trying to see, yeah, I'm guessing this is where they've integrated the radar cruise now. In the past, you've usually had like a big block somewhere, but if you see right here in the front bumper, it looks like they've been able to do a better job integrating some of those safety features in. And then of course here's your camera that's also used for your lane departure. And again, this is a base model LE, but it's nice to see that the blind spot monitoring is now standard as part of the Toyota Safety Sense. So let's go ahead and check out the inside. And this is where I'm telling you, this is very much Toyota Crown inspired. So this of course is going to have the fabric interior, but what I'm really enjoying with these new Toyotas, that what they're doing is, you know, this isn't really going to come through on video. You'll just have to look at one and see it for yourself. But I am hugely impressed with the new fabric that's coming in these seats. I mean, just look at the seat design. There's a lot more texture up here. Even the different types of textures of the actual material here. You've got, you know, more of like a linear kind of grain to the cloth. This is more of like almost like a checkered or more traditional style, whereas you have this kind of like wavy look here, and then very thin, very angular, very, you know, very modern looking headrests. But really just in general, the actual fabric feeling is so much better. I kind of always hated the Toyota cloth seats because they just felt very slick and very cheap. Even if it's a good quality material, it just didn't really feel all that great. They have actually continued with this cloth material on the dashboard. And this is where I'm telling you, this is right out of the Crown's handbook. Now, it's a different interior for sure, but if we look at what the dashboard has going on, the way they've kind of got this like waterfall design coming into play, this type of look is very much out of the Crown. And if you've seen my previous video, I'm actually really happy with the Crown interior. And that being said, I'm really happy with the Camry interior as well. Minus moving the car to this parking spot, this is the first time I've really had a chance to sit in and look at one of these. And I was really excited again to see what a base model was going to look like. I was curious to see if it looked cheap, if it felt cheap, and I think this looks great. These rakes here on the dashboard are kind of interesting. You can see it does somewhat integrate the air vent there, which is a nice modern touch to it. The rest of this though is completely just a cosmetic adornment, if you will, to the dashboard. There's no other functionality out of this. Now I think it would have been really cool if they'd pulled some you know, kind of Tesla tricks and integrated like a whole vent in there somehow, and maybe integrated it in the dashboard like some of the Teslas in these modern cars are doing. But it still is a great looking design. I like the way that this piece kind of matches up with the center console. I'm actually going to talk about this here in a second. But you can see coming standard now, we've got a wireless phone charger, and I did check the window sticker. This is not an option, neither are the blind spots. This is exactly how it comes. You can see you've got your USB-C chargers for fast charge. This one's going to be your USB-A for the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If you're familiar at all with any Toyotas, this screen is in every single Toyota now, minus the 4Runner, but the new one's going to have that fixed. But this software and the way it works is exactly the same. There are going to be some Camrys that'll have a larger screen naturally, but this does wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, so no real surprises there. I was happy to see, and they've kind of been transitioning to this with a lot of the other Toyotas as well, but it's nice to see auto climate control here, and it's also dual zone. The Corollas and Camrys have been kind of transitioning to having that even on the base models, because a lot of times it was just a manual, you know, how much air do you want, where do you want it, what temperature do you want it. So it's nice to see that you can just easily, you know, set this. It makes, you know, a base model car feel a lot more premium. This shifter here, it feels exactly like the shifter out of the old Camry. And I'd almost be willing to bet that some of these components are even shared with the previous Camry. The same deal here with the Eco Sport modes, the fake EV mode button, which, you know, the hybrids really shouldn't even have that button. The automatic brake hold, the electronic parking brake, stuff like that is normal. You do not have a powered seat on the LE. You can see it's got the manual adjustment, and it does allow for, wow, that was kind of cool. It does allow for manual adjustment here of the height, but on the LE, not a chance to get the power seats on this model. Now, something that just happened I am not quite sure about. Let's see if it does it again. I was outside of the car was running, and there was a vehicle that drove up behind it in the parking lot, and it was kind of like the cross traffic alert system was active even though I was not in reverse. So that was actually a really interesting thing that just happened there. I don't know if I'll be able to replicate that again, but kind of getting back to the design language here. This LE does have kind of like the generic rubber steering wheel. You know, there's no leather wrap. There's nothing that's super fancy about the steering wheel, but I do like the setup. I am glad that they didn't go for the crazy over the top interior or like the dashboard setup of the Prius when it comes to, you know, the steering wheel and having this double gauge cluster thing. I think this is just a nice classic look. You know, even though this is a base model, you still have a fairly modern digital screen here in the center with a little bit of adjustment that you can do here. And then kind of some almost manual gauges for fuel, and believe it or not, you have a coolant temp gauge as well. But pretty nice. I am 6'3" right now. I have this seat all the way back, and there is more than enough room. I would expect that in a Camry. Realistically, I would probably be driving around here with a little bit of adjustment on the height, but really nice front cabin area. Up here, you do still keep, this is actually, this whole roof line I'm pretty sure is pulled out of the 24. Still have your sunglass pocket, or for some cars, these sunroof controls, as well as LED interior lights and your connected services emergency SOS button. So I do want to talk about one thing I noticed, and I have made this comment about the Prius in the past, and I have to make the point here. This is just, I think, the downside of some of these new cars and, you know, how plasticky things have gotten. But there is a bit more flex in some of these panels than I think there should be. So especially if we look at the center console here, I don't know if you can tell, but there is a lot of flex here. And then certainly right here with this panel that meets in with the dashboard, there is a lot more movement here than I feel like there should be. I mean, you can see, I feel like I'm not going to, but I feel like this panel right here is probably just snapped in, and I could probably just pop this whole thing out. Now, great if maybe down the road you're doing some repairs on it, but you know, initial impressions, you know, I like the material here. I like the shape. I love the way the functions are. But for anybody who's going to sit here and have their leg leaned against this, there's constantly going to be some flex here. And that really doesn't matter. Like, nothing here is going to break as a result of this. But I do worry that over time there's going to be maybe some creakiness, some squeakiness. But at least as of right now, there's no noise. But I've noticed in a lot of if you do the same exact thing in a modern Prius, the way they've got the dashboard that goes straight across, there's a lot of flex in the panels here. Now everything else is for the most part pretty tight. Well, a little bit of movement there, but definitely not as tight on the tolerances on the plastic that I would hope to have. So let's go check out the back seat now. Not as much to ride home with back here. The main priorities that I think Toyota's gone for here is comfort, as far as space and as far as functionality. So again, that front seat is adjusted where I would expect it to be for me. And there is more than enough legroom back here. And that is saying something because most sedans just don't have the room. You do have air vents back here, which is nice to see because a lot of cars don't typically have this. It's more of like an SUV thing. In typical fashion, there is only one map pocket, and they say that this is for the driver to reach back in and grab stuff out of. And then, of course, you do have USB-A and USB-C chargers back there. Other than that, you've got your standard cup holders in the doors. They are not very big. They might fit a water bottle. You're not going to fit a can in there because of the way that they are angled. And standard, you do have a center armrest. So this does have your regular cup holders built in. So certainly more than enough function, more than enough room. Whether this is something you're using for a daily driver, or, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Uber drivers that are going to be using these, especially with them being a hybrid, or maybe you have a family, you just want to have a car you can fit your kids in. This honestly works really well. So tons of room back here. All right, last but not least is the trunk. And what can I say about a trunk other than the fact that it opens and it's huge? This has been a Camry staple. Really, all these bigger four-door sedans, you'd expect to have this kind of room in here, and this one does not disappoint. I will point out that a nice feature that still retains in these LEs is the option to be able to fold down the rear seats. You can see there is a kind of a medium-sized pass-through hole, and those seats will basically fold about as flat as that shelf is right there, which is great if you do have some longer objects in there, maybe some golf clubs that won't fit in here or whatever. But that's nice. You know, some cars that is an option you pay for. There is interesting detail actually on this plastic cover. You can see that's where your 12-volt car battery is. And I will say this panel actually feels pretty solid. Got to clip that back in when I have both hands free. And it looks like you might actually still get a spare tire, even though this is a hybrid. And nobody really gets excited when I talk about that, but there's a lot of car brands that are going away from having a spare tire. So nice to see it's still there. There's also a question I had with it being a brand new model and being hybrid only now. Now let's go ahead and look at the window sticker here. So this is why I think these Camrys are going to do so well. I do understand there's a lot of conversations about the fact that there is no regular 4-cylinder anymore, but just keep in mind this power plant, this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder Atkinson cycle hybrid blah 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 ECVT, this is not new for Toyota. This powertrain, minus I'm sure some tweaks, has existed on the Toyota lineup now for like 6 years or more. So this is great. This is a carryover from the previous model. Everybody's loved it. You know, if you're worried about the hybrid systems, I can make a separate video and kind of explain that. But this is not a system you really have to worry about. You can see they've got pretty good horsepower, 225 horsepower. If they do have an all-wheel drive option, I think that gets about 10 extra horsepower or something like that with the electric rear motor. But you can see, again, this is a base model. You can see right there, there's a blind spot, that's standard. 16-inch alloy wheels, standard. And then, of course, all the multimedia. Only options that this one has is Toyota's infamous Toyo Guard, and then the phone cable package. So you can see MSRP out the door on this car is going to be $30,273. Now here at the dealer, we do install a few things. You can see there was not all-weather floor mats on that window sticker, so we will have an addendum for some of those things. Wheel locks, some minor things there. But if you're just looking at the window sticker itself and how this ships from Toyota, with destination, a base model, nearly stripped out Camry is going to be right around $30,000. The silver one that was over there, actually I don't think even had these two options in there. Actually, I think it did have the convenience package with the power sliding seat there. But ultimately $30,000 for a base model Camry. And if you look at the fuel economy numbers, that's impressive. I mean, pretty much 50 miles per gallon or better, no matter how you drive it. And you know, that to me is a no-brainer. That is fantastic. That is better than Priuses 10 years ago, what they would get. So there's certainly been enough upgrades on these things, and I think this is going to be a great car in the long run. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this quick little tour of a brand new 2025 Camry LE. I am going to be looking forward to looking at the SEs and XSEs and XLEs that will be coming in soon. So expect some more video content there. I will basically take those videos and contrast it with this one and basically just build on and spot the differences, whether it be features, technology, or looks, aesthetics, things of that nature. So as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.